The Virginia Cable Telecommunications Association and your local cable provider presents Cable Reports. Join us now as Cable Reports brings you up to date on current issues facing the Commonwealth through discussions with your local legislators and other policymakers from across Virginia.
From the General Assembly and the City of Richmond, I'm Woody Evans for Cable Reports, brought to you by the Virginia Cable Telecommunications Association and Comcast, connecting Virginians to their government. We're pleased to have Mark Dudenhefer, a member of the House of Delegates in the state of Virginia. Welcome, sir.
Well, thank you. I enjoy being here. It's a great tool to get discussion of what we do here in Richmond out to the public, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Great. This is your second go-round here in the House of Delegates. You were here once before. You were also chairman of the Stafford County Board of Supervisors. How has the transition been this time?
Yeah, it's kind of like riding a bike. The processes are basically the same, so just a matter of kind of refreshing yourself. It seems like they continue to improve the automation of what we do, and so the flow of information is much more convenient and easier. So I've noticed coming back this time that it's been a little more manageable to manage the volumes of data that keep coming your way, the bills, the information that's out there. So and it's also improved dramatically what the public can see and how they can track bills. It has always been frustrating to me to try and explain to the general public that usually bills that get filed are not the bills that get passed.
Right.
There's a process that they go through the whole way. So I've been able to encourage people to track what that is, if something's very important to them, to be able to have a window into the process to see what is happening with their bill all the way to the end. And the vote counts, I mean, they can see the amount of support or lack of support there is for issues that are important to them. So in that regard, I mean, we've been very innovative, as I've seen, and it's been very supportive of my efforts.
And there have been some significant rule changes that the Speaker implemented in terms of transparency as well.
Yeah, obviously the one area where we seem to catch a lot of criticism is in our transparency that deals with our budget process. And whenever you have circumstances where the requirements significantly outweigh the resources that are available to apply to those, there has to be some form of process that prioritizes and gets certain things funded. So, and it's even difficult for delegates to keep track of the whole process. I can imagine the frustration that the general public has with that. But I put in 4 budget amendments, and we'll wait for Sunday when they kind of publish who made the first cut, so to speak.
Right.
And I have no more insight into it than the general public does. So I'd like to say that I have a lot more input, but we have only 8 weeks to go through the entire budget process. So it's it's a fast-paced process. Sometimes so fast-paced, you feel like you're the little the duck, bing, 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 going back and forth. So transparency is important. I think what we're going to be they're going to publish the bill, that's the final bill before the vote, 48 hours in advance now, and I think that will help some, but it's still a large document and it's very complicated. So it needs to be, whatever we can do to make that process more open and people see what drives the decisions that are made, I think is important. It's important to me. I mean, I'm just I'm a guy up here who I'm not on appropriations, so in many ways, to me too, it's kind of that black hole. You throw your stuff in, you wait and see what comes out on the other side. So, but it's important, and I think they're always looking for ways to make the processes more transparent.
Now, your district encompasses parts of Prince William County and parts of Stafford County. Talk to us about the economy in your district.
Well, the district I represent is all of eastern Prince William County. So you have Route 1 from the Occoquan all the way down to the Marine Corps Base at Quantico, everything on the Potomac River side of the highway there, except for the town of Dumfries. And it is totally different from my North Stafford part of my district, which goes all the way from the Fauquier line to the Potomac River. So it's a kind of a reverse L-shaped district with two totally different constituent groups, totally different economic engines. You know, my Stafford part of my district is very government employee related. There are not a lot of businesses in my district, and Stafford's more of a bedroom type community. But the people have relatively high household incomes compared to a lot of places in the country. Stafford's probably in the top 10 for household incomes, but so is Prince William, Fairfax, and the others. But I think the section of Prince William that I represent isn't, the economic impact there is, or they're suffering more. They don't have the access to some of the services. I think in Prince William County, unfortunately, the focus has been more to the western side of the county, it's exasperating for the people who live along Route 1 who've been there forever, and they can't get the improvements to Route 1, and
Right.
they look out to the west with all the newer subdivisions and newer things happening, and they're seeing more money invested in their transportation and issues out there. So that's something that's very important to me, is that we need to obviously transportation, and we can talk
Right.
a considerable amount about transportation, but the Route 1 corridor is extremely important to the entire east coast of the United States. And so by having bottlenecks, I guess the way we're doing it now is they're almost hopscotching down the highway with 6 lanes, 4 lanes, 6 lanes, 4
Right.
lanes at the major intersections. And that's not satisfactory. That's just not going to ever solve the problem. It should be 6 lane now all the way down, and we should be talking about improving it in Stafford, not bogged down in Prince William. But and the Prince William side had, you get along the Potomac River, there's some new subdivision there with $1 million homes, and but the closer you get to Route 1, there are a lot more townhomes and apartments and just working people, hourly type working people, and it's been a challenge to try and communicate with all that constituent group. I'm a firm believer that regardless who voted for me to get me elected, I was elected to represent every person in the district, and I take that very, very seriously. So I don't care if you live on the Potomac in $1 million house, or
Right.
you live in an apartment complex on Route 1, or somewhere in Widewater Peninsula or whatever. I mean, it's my job to represent you to the best of my ability, and I take improving quality of life is paramount in everything that I look at doing.
Now, you serve on the Transportation Committee, of course, and let's focus a little bit on transportation. You were here in 2013, I believe, when the transportation funding mechanism was put into place. How do you think that has worked so far?
Like any major legislation or changes to how you do business, there are going to have to be tweaks as you go down the line. And I think in my 2-year absence, they've made some changes that I think most are positive. I voted for the 2313 transportation bill. It was it's very important to me. The whole transportation issue is extremely important to me. It's extremely important to the people I represent, being along the I-95 and Route 1 corridor. So it was easy for me to see that we did not have the resources to even make
Right.
a dent. And if you listen, you understand the funding aspects of transportation. We were slowly eating into our maintenance funds, to where you not only couldn't build new roads, but you couldn't maintain the old roads. Something had to change. And I could have proposed probably some other types of means that might have done that. My priority on where funds would come from and go into might have been different, but this was the vehicle that was that seem to have the best chance of being able to provide the funds to actually start making a dent in the transportation issues we have here. So in Stafford County, you know, and I don't like to be Stafford centric, but that's a lot of where I have my local government experience. But we had to change the culture in Stafford about how you look at transportation, and change to where it's just not a VDOT problem. You can't blame Richmond for every pothole and every turn lane that doesn't get developed. It's extremely important that they started taking ownership of the issues there. So in 2006, when I came in office in Stafford County, Stafford got $2 million a year. There were really zero transportation projects in the county. And,
Zero.
Zero.
Wow.
And if you drive around Stafford now, you're going to probably be aggravated because you're going to run into some construction site that's going to divert
Sure.
your traffic and whatever, which are all good things because we really need to push that forward. And so the momentum is there to kind of build on these things. One project that was extremely important to me was the improvements to Mountain View Road. I'm not sure if you're familiar with
Yes,
that
I know where
aspect
that
of
is.
Stafford, but Mountain View Road, I had a really tragic family
Yes.
circumstance there, but it became, it was very obvious to me that road needed to have some major work, and it took 10 years.
10
and we
years, that
finally
long.
just opened up the road. They took out curves, they took out hills, they widened the lanes, and now one of the major arteries that feed Mountain View High School now is a much safer road for our teenagers who go to school, our young adults who are most prone to lapses in
Right,
their
exactly.
driving and stuff. So I mean, in Stafford, we've looked at not only congestion but safety on our roads is very important. So, and I took that into the legislature when I went. I can tell you when I was approached to run, and some very important people in the state looked at me and said that they promised they would put me in a position to make a difference in transportation. And when the 2313 came up, I saw that as one of the
Right.
opportunities to right the ship, not 100%, but to put it back on a track where we could actually start making a dent in our transportation issues and stuff. So it was a big vote. I think House Bill 2
Yes.
is a big step forward.
That's the prioritization, is it not?
Yes, it takes the money now and tries to take as much of the politics out of the decision process,
Right.
which you're never going to take all the politics out of it. Unfortunately, whenever you have requirements outpace your resources, the decision process at that level becomes becomes a political process.
Right.
But it goes a long way to identifying which are the most important projects. They're forced to estimate the costs so that you have a better handle on those things. So Stafford and Prince William have fared very well in the HB2 process. We talked about the Route 1 corridor
Right.
up in Prince William, but it looks like there'll be enough funding to do about 3/4 of the way down from the Occoquan River south to 6 lanes there. And I'm optimistic the next round will even push us maybe all the way down to Quantico, which is obviously our goal. In Stafford County, there's funding now for a new bridge over the Rappahannock River and improvements to the interchanges on 17 and Route 3 that feed to that. They funded the southbound side, but I'm optimistic in the next round the northbound side will also fare very well. But there's funding for the Courthouse Road, a new Courthouse Road interchange, a widening of Courthouse Road. We're going to start widening of 610, the next segment. The Onville Road project is the intersection there is on track. We're getting ready to finish up on 17. I think the Falmouth interchange improvements have been very, very successful, and people are very surprised at how much better we can make the traffic there. So with all of that, that internal to Stafford, I think we're looking good. I think the express lanes is where we really need now to really look at the I-95 corridor in the Garrisonville area.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what's been the response to those hot lanes in general?
The of course, if you get stuck in them and you don't want to talk to people on the day they got stuck,
Right.
I mean, but I think the statistics prove, or the surveys have proven that, you know, people's commutes have gotten better. You no longer get stuck in Prince William County. It used to be routine. You'd back up from Dumfries to the
Right.
way station, then you'd get out, and then you'd still back up from parts of Stafford, maybe to the Marine Corps base and stuff. But well, now the Prince William part of that is no longer there. So Prince William, the I-95 corridor has improved dramatically, and those people are very happy with the way that has worked. I think in Stafford, the biggest complaints have to do with the backup. So if you're paying to be on the express lanes, trying to get
Sure.
off, you're backed up a mile or two. Why did you pay to get on in the first place? The tolls are really high. I think people are pretty exasperated by the you know, how much the tolls are, especially if you're going to get stuck and
Right.
you're paying a lot of money. So I just try and remind people that, you know, the company that built those borrowed $1 billion in order to put the lanes in, and unfortunately it costs a lot of money. But I think we've made some improvements in the how the tolls are collected, and the how they collect unpaid tolls. And this year we're implementing processes for collecting out-of-state tolls that I think they're over $21 million in unpaid out-of-state tolls. So we're not blind to the fact that there are significant problems that we still need to do. So, you know, I'm working on them. I put in a bill this year to try to minimize the amount of the administrative charges. It was kind of overtaken by Chris Jones, the head of appropriations, overall comprehensive bill. So we'll see how that works out, and see what tweaks we need to make on it going into next year. But I think the most significant announcement has been the extension of the you know, the express lanes at Garrisonville. I met with the commissioner of VDOT last week, went over all the different plans, and the one thing that came out from that discussion that was even a surprise to me is there's going to, you know, at the end of the 2.5 miles, you were going to merge from left to right, but they've decided to make the actual merge lane that will make 4 lanes is going to go down another 2 more miles. So it'll go significantly past the Courthouse Road interchange. So a lot of it, you know, I know people are exasperated, but please believe that, you know, there are meetings that go on all the time. We're trying to push new ideas. In some of the ideas, we've been thwarted by the Department of Highways up in Washington on trying to make changes. So it's a very, very high priority for me, for the speaker, and the representatives all along the I-95 corridor.
I take it, however, that it's a good example, the hot lane projects is a good example of the public-private partnerships working.
Certainly you know, there are advantages and disadvantages of the public-private partnership, public transportation projects, especially, and all you needed to do was watch the speed at which the construction took place along that corridor. I mean, we were amazed at how fast the trees came down and the grading and from completion to end. I hadn't seen a VDOT project do that in a long time, and I've reminded them of that many times. I think VDOT's actually going to do the actual extension project. And I've asked them to please use the model for the other guys. You know, let's try and use that. So what the public-private partnerships do is it relieves the state of having to borrow the money and eat up their debt service in order to build the roads, and I think that's significant. I'm hoping that on the 66 side we can do something like that too. I'd hate to see all the money from 2313 go into doing 66 express lanes, because the state took it on, as opposed to bringing in someone who will borrow the money, assume all the risks, and do all the construction very quickly, and make it, you know, the whole Northern Virginia transportation experience a little better.
As a matter of fact, there was a recent compromise about I-66 inside the Beltway, because I guess the fundamental complaint was that there were going to be no improvements, yet they were going to be tolled.
Right. And it isn't in specifically in my area, so that I wasn't involved in any negotiations, but certainly it was an election year issue. Most people, nobody likes to pay tolls. It's one of those, it's like trying to pay the, was it the automobile tax? I mean, there are
Right,
certain things
right.
that just seem to, get under your fingernails and just you can't get rid of. But the governor, I think, came forward with a reasonable compromise. I think, from what I understand, most of the people are pretty satisfied with how it's going to go forward. I personally don't agree that you should pay a toll on something where you don't see any improvement either. I mean, to me, that's a fundamental foundation of if you're going to toll someone. And an example was when they canceled phase 2 of the express lane projects on 95. The phase 1 ended at Dumfries. So when they canceled the second one, their first thoughts were they were just going to end it at Dumfries. And my point, and I made it very loudly, was how can you expect the people in the south of Quantico to pay a toll for a traffic pattern that's you're not going to improve it at all. You may improve up in Fairfax or up in northern Prince William, but these people are coming up. They're going to pay the higher tolls, and you're not going to improve their traffic. So that was the seed that we planted about extending it to the Garrisonville exit. Of course, they didn't listen to my whole suggestion, which was to extend it past Garrisonville Road. So now they're paying the price. They're having to go back in and fix that error.
Now, there was another recent compromise that surprised a lot of people, had to do with the concealed carry permit and reciprocity with other states. Give us a little background about that and what the resolution was all about.
Well, I think most of us expected that we were going to come to Richmond for session, and that was going to be one of the most overriding issues that drove the two parties apart, and created a lot of anxiety and a lot of arguments and whatever. But almost immediately, the governor and several key members of the House and Senate got together, and they showed what you can do when you put your mind to it, and you're flexible enough to listen to what the other guys are saying and try and come up with a win-win for everyone else. And that's pretty much what I think happened here. Is the governor opened up the reciprocity for the entire United States. So so the people like me who believe that law-abiding citizens should be able to own again, and all the arguments that go with that. But they also, that side, our side, kind of gave in on the things such as voluntary gun, having state police at gun shows that do voluntary background checks, and then the convicted abusers not being able to have a concealed carry permit. I think all of those are all positive. I don't think anyone ever argued. I think the problem is everyone was afraid to give.
Right.
Because they end up giving, and they feel that it kind of moves the bar. But if both come to the middle on things that are logical and make sense, we end up with what we have here. So both sides of the aisle have stood up and said this is a great deal for the citizens of Virginia, and it's a great deal for our side. It's a great deal for their side, and I want to commend the governor and certainly the members of the leadership in the House and Senate for being able to do that.
Another important local issue for you is the Widewater State Park. Tell us about that.
Well, Widewater Peninsula is a very pristine area. Most of the homes in there, once you get away from Route 1, are many generations of families. But back in the 60s, I believe it was, the state purchased 1,100 acres right on the Potomac River for a future state park. It was a very reasonable price. Now in Stafford County, we have 9 miles of frontage onto, or shoreline onto Potomac, the Potomac River, but we have 0 public access in that whole 9 miles. And so this Widewater State Park and the money that I'm working on getting from them will open up a good part of those 1,100 acres for significant access to the Potomac River, everything from boat launches and fishing piers and canoe ports and huge picnic areas and stuff like that all along the river will all come from this. So we're preparing to begin phase one, which was money I got when I was in the House before, and I've requested an additional $12 million to do phase two. I'm optimistic, but again, it went into that, into that hole. We'll see what the ultimate outcome is. But I'm also working on some money to improve the transportation, the roads that are out there. It's a very quiet area. There are some communities that live way out there. They like their privacy, so we need to try and make it better for them. But the park along the Potomac River, the sister park to this is Lee Sylvania State Park up in Prince William. It literally has to shut its doors in the summertime sometime because of overcrowding. So the demand by the citizens in Virginia is there to have access to these kinds of parks, and it'll it's something that I'll push until we get it completely finished. But taking us through phase two completes all the day activities. It doesn't dig into yet the nighttime activities or the overnight stuff. So we'll work on that future date.
Now, more efficient, smaller government is important to you, and I know you had some legislation dealing with a lean government initiative.
Right. As part of my campaign is we talk the talk all the time about government being more efficient and running more like a business or whatever. Well, some of that's not as realistic as it could be, but there is a concept called lean government, which makes government more responsive to their customers, who are the constituents, the citizens out there who need to feel like their government is being more responsive. It streamlines processes, and it's a process. It's not a one-time thing. But I put in legislation to engage the Inspector General's office to oversee the implementation of this. It's not new. It's been used in the private sector for quite some time. The DOD uses it. There's actually one, the Department of Corrections in Virginia uses it. So it's a proven way of coming at the efficiencies in government. I kind of got a late start pushing it and selling it inside the legislature, and there are some financial costs associated with it that I didn't anticipate. So those are all things that I'm going to work really hard on in the next year to come up in next January 17 with some proposals to really try and implement and make that a reality.
Great. Well, we appreciate your time today, Delegate Mark Dudenhefer. Good luck the rest of the session.
Thank you very much. I could talk all day, but thank you for having me.
Thank you for watching Cable Reports, brought to you by the Virginia Cable Telecommunications Association and Comcast. Until next time, I'm Woody Evans. Mm-hmm.